On the 21st of March, 1918, the German spring offensive begins. Supported by 60 divisions from the Eastern Front, the Germans launched their attack on the salient between the Somme and the Marne River. Marshal Foch becomes the Allied commander. British troops have to withdraw. French troops withdraw as far as the outskirts of Paris. The United States enter the war. The enormous human and material potential of the American war effort restores the balance between the belligerent nations. Strange as it seems, neither the millions of grenades fired, the flamethrowers scorching the earth, the tanks and airplanes causing havoc far and wide, nor the gas poisoning the air, the hundreds of thousands perished in battle, bring the fury of the spring offensive to an end. But in Germany, 800,000 people die of starvation. Moreover, the Russian Revolution might spread like a forest fire into Germany. Then General Ludendorff admits that his last reserves have been exhausted. His troops are worn out and demoralized. Yes, it will be necessary to take the first favorable opportunity to sue for peace. Through the medium of the Swiss government, the German government approaches President Wilson. The German government urges the President to inform all the belligerents of the military situation, and to invite them to send plenipotentiaries for the purpose of starting negotiations. On the 8th of November, at 7 a.m., the train of the German delegation stops. Windows are uncovered. Nothing but a marshy coppice, grey weather, a sky covered with rain clouds hanging low. A few yards away stands another train, wrapped in mist. A gendarme discloses the secret. They have arrived in the forest of Compiègne. As the ground is so bad underfoot, the marshal's train and that of the Germans are connected by a duckboard, which can be used to go from one to the other. The two trains have been shunted on to two sections of the railway track which comes from the Rotonde station. These spurs of railway have been used for the heavy artillery firing in the direction of Noyon. Shortly after the arrival of the German delegation, Marshal Foch sends word to the plenipotentiaries that he will see them in his train at 9 a.m. Negotiations are about to begin. When the plenipotentiaries have entered, Marshal Foch makes his entry and salutes. Mr. Erzberger, the Minister of State, introduces the members of the German mission. Marshal Foch in his turn introduces the officers who accompany him. Erzberger shows his credentials. The Marshal retires into the next compartment to examine them. Shortly afterwards, he comes back and invites the four Germans to take their seats at one of the long sides of the table. The Marshal opens the negotiations, stating, "I have no proposals to give you." Erzberger: "We wish to inquire into the conditions under which the Allies would agree to an armistice." The Marshal: "I have no conditions to make." Erzberger: "However, President Wilson—" The Marshal: "I'm here to answer you if you ask for an armistice. Do you ask for an armistice?" If you do, I can acquaint you with the conditions under which it will be obtained. Erzberger. Yes. Thereupon, General Wigan reads out the text proposed by the Allied command. Erzberger. May I communicate these proposals to my government? The Marshal. Yes. You may send them by special courier. On the 11th of November, at 2 a.m., the Germans announce that they are ready to attend the meeting. They are at once shown into the Marshal's carriage. The session opens at 2:15 a.m. General Wigan reads the final text of the armistice. It consists of 24 articles, specifying particularly the cessation of hostilities 6 hours after the signing of the armistice, the evacuation of invaded countries, the restoration of Alsace and Lorraine, the surrender of war material, guns, airplanes, machine guns, railway rolling stock, the repatriation of prisoners of war. After 3 hours of explanation, at 5:10 a.m., the Germans agreed to sign. The Marshal is the first to sign. At 11 a.m., the ceasefire is observed at the front. Finally, blood ceases to flow. Soon after the hostilities have ended, the French authorities turn the historic setting where the armistice has been signed into a site of remembrance known as the Glade of the Armistice. An avenue of 250 yards is opened up, and a roundabout of more than 100 yards in diameter is laid out. At the entrance of the avenue, a monument is erected. It shows an eagle struck down by a sword. The central flagstone carries the words, "Here on the 11th of November, perished the criminal pride of the German Empire, defeated by the free people whom it set out to enslave." The railway carriage is brought to the courtyard of the Invalids, where it becomes an object of general curiosity. Owing to the initiative of the mayor of Compiègne, the carriage is later restored as an office and housed in a shelter near the roundabout of the armistice. The opening ceremony takes place on the 11th of November, 1927. Marshal Foch and a number of generals and officers are present. Finally, on the 26th of September, 1937, a statue of Marshal Foch is unveiled in the presence of the wife of the late Marshal Foch. Every year, from 1922 to 1938, on the 11th of November, a ceremony takes place, attended by distinguished persons and by representatives of the government. World War II. June 1940. The Battle of France is lost. On the 15th of June, the enemy enters the city of Paris. Half of French territory will be invaded. England has no more forces capable of fighting on the continent. America, to whom appeal has been made, will not enter the war until a year later. The French government requests an armistice. The French delegation is summoned to meet the German delegation on the 21st of June on the Glade of the Armistice. The railway carriage has been brought out of its shelter to the very site it occupied in November 1918. In that railway carriage, the terms of the armistice are presented to the French delegation. After the armistice has been signed, the carriage is taken to Berlin as a trophy. The monuments of the glade of the armistice are destroyed, and the roundabout is laid waste. The avenues are ploughed up, the plantations cut. Only the statue of Marshal Foch is left untouched. Had the Germans respected it? Were they prompted by a soldierly gesture of courtesy? No, far from it. Hitler wished the victor of 1918 to contemplate historic changes of fate. After the war, the municipality of Compiègne never ceased to take a particular interest in the restoration of the glade of the armistice. It has been completely restored to its original pre-war state. According to German reports, the original carriage had been destroyed by British bombers towards the end of the war. Therefore, a railway carriage identical with the original one, equipped like the old one by the Wagon-Lit Company and containing the same souvenirs, was run into its reconstructed shelter.